If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.
Hello Internet, we are back and we have a fellow with us who I've been wanting to talk to for quite a while. His name is Marco. Now he's got a surname as well, but I'm going to ask him to actually say that aloud here. I've been in trouble for abusing people's name apparently.
No.
But he's Italian. He's a man who fought. He was in 6-1 Mech. He was also in Wansai, which is in Bloemfontein, which is an Afrikaans place. We will talk about that. Marco, you're so welcome here. Thank you for coming to us. I want to say to everybody, if you're listening here and you feel a connection, you feel that perhaps you have a story, and you do, please just contact me. It's really, there's nothing to it, and we'll do our best to get your story. It will be good for you as well. So Marco, you're Italian. You speak Italian. You learned Afrikaans the hard way in the army. Tell me, where did you come from? Where's your parents? Tell me a little bit about your background.
Okay, I grew up in Orange. Okay, sorry. Firstly, thank you for having me on your program. Thank you very much. Most appreciated. Thank you. I grew up in Orange Grove, which was Little Italy. I'm sure you know about that. And my dad at the time, my mom and dad always had restaurants. And then they had a restaurant corner of Moy and Marshall in the 70s, all of the 70s. And they were restaurant owners. And then from then, they're also a manager of the Italian club in Bedford View, Limbro Club. And then from then, I went to Islands in Orange Grove, and then Edenvale also. And then from then, I was called up, and my dad said to me, "No, son," he says, "we're Italian. I think we're working here. This is our land now. I think you go and do your duty," which I didn't have to. I could have gone to Italy, but my dad said, "No, this is, we work here, we make our money. This is now land. So I think go to the army," which I did, and my other brother. Okay, he went to the Air Force, but that's how it all started from there. So, and then, as I said, from then I was called up at 11th Command. And in 11th Command, I thought, let me try. I always wanted to try the parabats, you know. So I went to the parabats and I did the basics, the PD course. And unfortunately, I fell out of the hangar. I wasn't just good enough. I think I wasn't concentrating hard enough. And I think Johan Kiese still said to me, "No, Sean, jy's nie reg vir hierdie plek nie." So I said, okay. So from then I went to, they RT'd me to one side. And I was a rifleman, skitter, as you know. And we were in platoon one, we formed, we did our infantry training from then, and they formed our sections. And from then we were dealt to 6-1. We went to 6-1 battalion, Mech battalion. And that's how it all started. I went there. Yeah, and that's how it started. We went to, the place is called Amatia at 6-1. And we went there, when did we leave? The November of 79 still. We stayed there 3 months. We came back, and then we went back again, and we did intensive training. But no one ever said it was going to be, it was actually a big ops, but we never even knew about it ourselves. And I think only when we arrived on at our camp, I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to the time, they said, "No, you guys are doing a big ops. There's no more letters, no more nothing, no phone calls. We could do nothing from there." So that's how it all started. And that's how we're preparing ourselves for Smoke Shop, which we didn't know. That's Skeptic, Operation Skeptic was the name of the ops we did. Yeah, and that's the beginning. And then from there, I remember they put us in platoons. And at the time, General Dippener, Commandant Dippener was in charge of all of us. And we all went into we had platoon gatherings, which they said to us, "Look, guys, this is a big ops. What you're going to do? There's no shame if you don't want to do it, seek report." But obviously, we were all young, and we thought, "No, you know what? We're going to do this." You know, you don't know any better, but you're young and tough and ready for it. We were prepared. I still think we had good training, I must say. Our training was intense and great. But I'll never forget. I'll tell you this part. It was the 6th of June, because we left the Sunday, the 8th of June. We had a big party, drinking in our tent, and we're all getting lekker drunk. And we're drinking export beer, I still remember. And my LT got us a rum, which we mixed in, and partying, drinking, listening to Pink Floyd, which was amazing. And then my buddy next to me, Robert De Vita, was also Italian like me. And so obviously we had met, and being Italian, we became close. And strange enough, we were put in the same platoon and in the same section. So we came close. And we were actually riflemen 3 and 4 as infantry. And I remember that night he was sitting next to me, and he still said to me, Marco, he says, and he kept on shaking. He says to me, Marco, what we're going to do is a big step in my life. I said, no, what are you talking about, Robert? He says, no, I don't know. So it's going to be a big step. If I can overcome what we're going to do, I think he had a premonition. If we're going to overcome what we're going to do, life's going to be really great. And I said, hey, Rob, nothing's going to happen to you. Rob, nothing's going to happen. He says, no, I don't know. But shake my hand. And, he was insisting. So I shook his hand. And I said to him, he said, no, just promise me that if something happens to me, you'll stay with my parents. Like keeping contact. I said, you will, but nothing's going to happen. We're going to go and do in what we're going to do. We didn't know what was going to happen. And we'll do our job. But I said, I'm coming back. I know, even if it's full of holes, which I said, and God luck, how can we say, God looked after me that day, And then the 8th of June, we left and we went to Anana. We all regrouped there that night, and we actually stayed over the night. I think they refueled the rattles and everything. And then and another thing I remember was old Devito was standing guard on the rattle, sitting like that and smoking. And he said, and we said, come, swapping, you off whistle for Wachta, like stand guard. And then he said to me, no, Marco, don't worry, you sleep. I said, but you must also rest. He says, no. He says, you rest, I'm just, and obviously he felt something was coming, Then he goes to sleep, but you excited, what's the word, you're nervous, you're overwhelming, you don't know what's going to happen, but you're going to go and do your job, what we were trained for. And in any case, early that morning we left. Our platoon left for the base. The base is actually what we were attacking was a 260 km in Angola. The place was Chififu, this big training camp. It was a Fapla camp, but it was training swapu to become soldiers. So our job was to go and attack this base. So we went in. We left early that morning. As I said, from Anana we left. And about, I can't remember, maybe 20 km, our rattle actually broke. We were 2-1 Charlie at the time. And our back axles broke. I think we hit the bunker or something. Can't really remember. But I remember stopping. And then the echelon came and they gave us a rattle, which was 9 Golf, which I'm sure you'll see in the photo. That's because we were, as I said, really 2-1 Charlie. And at the same time, as it stopped, because all the rattles are fully bombed, meaning it's got magazines, grenades, for each guy that's in the infantry, obviously. And we had to try and take as much as we could out of 2-1 Charlie and put in 9 Golf. So we could carry on. And eventually we got all sort of, but quick, we had to do it quick enough because our platoon was carrying on. So eventually we drove ourselves and we caught up with him. And I don't know, it's time when I think it was about 12 o'clock, we actually arrived at the base. And but before that too, there was the, yes, I'm just going back, back to what they told us. We had to take out 11, 12 and 13 anti-aircraft positions. And there was also HQ, I think, or voertuigpark that we also had to take out. But as I said, as we came into the actual camp, we actually came in from one side and there was actually nothing because they told us that they're going to bomb it by air and by ground and we'll just do operamen, get out of the rattles. And we got there and there was actually nothing. There was no smoke, nothing. We actually came in and we actually were riding over trenches there with the Fapla guys. We actually saw them. We just going and we thought, but what's going on? There's nothing, I think the info, what is it? Something went wrong. In any case, so we came through and I remember coming over and there was a trench and I still opened up fire. And then my section leader, Paul Kruger, said, no, stop, please, you can't shoot. I thought, what's going on? Like, I mean, the enemy is already here, So in any case, we came on and we got to one part and we jumped out the rattles. And then in the distance, I could hear the ZU-23s. They were shooting. And then my section leader said, no, everybody klim terug. So we all got back in the rattle. And I think, because then there was a lot of communication with the radio, I think to my lieutenant in the 0 rattle, but I couldn't hear with the section leader. And then we started going, we sort of, for about maybe 20 minutes, we started, because then we saw the enemy. So we started shooting, throwing grenades and the whole story. And then we came over sort of a slight ridge. I can't remember, it was a hill, but we were actually on the flank because we were section 3. And there was a mealie field. And there was a 23 mil dug in there. And obviously we didn't see it. But I remember the rattle stopped, and all of a sudden there was just this, in the rattle, there's this intenseness, as if everything just went to a standstill. I'll never forget that feeling. There was like no air. It just went, I can't explain. And then I remember the first thing that, before that, sorry, De Vito was on my left. He said, no, Marco, I want to change over because I want to cover fire. I'll cover fire for him, and he wants to throw grenades. So we swapped about 4 minutes before we actually hit the proper, when they started hitting our rattle. So we swapped places. And then, as I said, everything went still, and they started to shoot. And I remember the first thing I saw was my driver. His name was Steve Cornier. And I looked there and I saw him. He actually was hit through the chest, because it was 23 mil anti-aircraft. So it shot through the rattles, and there were also traces coming through the turret, which I'm sure you'll see in that photo that I sent you. And I thought, yes, no, this can't be happening. I just saw this green splashes and screaming. And then as I saw Steve, he was trying to open the hydraulic doors. And I thought, yes, what's going on? You know, and I saw this, he had been hit, and there was blood coming out his mouth, his eyes, his ears. And the next thing I looked, he died. You know, which is just, you cannot believe this. I thought, what is going on? And then everything changes. You know, your mind frame, everything starts changing. So I said, Robert, jump. We're getting hit. So as we jumped out, I mean, the 23 was still wrecking. And as we jumped out, it shot him. And unfortunately, it shot my buddy Robert, and shot him in half. And as it hit him, because we jumped out together, and we went out, and he was hit. I think the shrapnel from his, I think an HE round hit him. And I got shrapnel on my hip and on my leg. So that was the first time I was hit. Went over on the ground, fell down. And then I remember lying there, and I thought, yes. Now there's all of a sudden, there's no more, I can't explain, there's no more combat in you, or you're another person. The only thing I could think of is how am I going to get out of here? And it's bad to say, but the fear just takes over. You know, and I was lying there, and I said to myself, this, I could feel my leg burning and my hip. And I said, I have to tell Robert I've been hit, because we worked together at Rifleman 3 and 4. So I saw him lying in the, like, sort of a felty area, not really a bush, a felt. And I crawled to him to tell him I've been hit. So as I went, I said, Rob, I think I've been hit. And his eyes was, and as I pulled him, I realized that he was hitting off, and he was gone. So I got up, of course, I tell you what, even now, I mean, I got up, I thought, this is it. I went back against our rattle, and I could hear nothing. There was no sound. That's why I must, just to cut it a bit, I must tell you, you know, Saving Private Ryan, when I watched that movie, that first assault attack, it's so true. The sound goes completely. You see flashes, but you don't. It is so unbelievable, and that's how I felt, you know. And I remember going against the rattle, and then our tail gunner came. His name was Van Pfeiffer. Came around and says, Caforio, Slandek, and Leskirupia. And then I sort of back a script. And I remember I was just standing with my rifle, and the AKs were hitting the rattle. And he said, Slandek and Eskitja. And I still didn't know what was going on. I said, look, Van. I said, Vasi Owens. No, almost do it. I thought, oi. So now I'm still hopping. So I hopped to the back of my rattle to see him. And then I saw a Zero rattle, which is another, my Elties rattle, that hit it with the RPG. And I'll never forget, the other side I saw was, his name was Spente, who was also the tail gunner of that specific rattle, my lieutenant's rattle. And I remember he was burning. I will never forget that. He was trying to get out the back, you know, the body and the Starbuck was glowing. I will never forget. And I thought to myself, you know what, I think we have to get out of here. So I went back to Van, and I mean, at the same time, my hip's burning like hell. And I said to him, you know, Van, we must get out of here. And he didn't answer me. I mean, till today, I had webbing on me, which I don't know where it went to. I just had my R1. I don't know what, till today. And he says, Caforio, wacht. And I said, Van, come, we have to, you just want to hide. You know, there's no like Eddie Murphy. Just fear takes over, although there's control. But you know more mana, believe me. Not that we were mana, but the intense of fear is, it's overwhelming, you know. And I kept on thinking to myself, you know, 6-1's far from here. How am I going to get back? You know, I thought, how am I going to get back to that camp? And I said, well, I'm here now. I must make the most of it. You know, we have to make a plan. So we ran, and we jumped into a bunker. And I could hear, it was sort of an underground bunker, and I could hear there was a fire that was, I think it was the enemy shooting somewhere else. And I said to Van, no, this is this is not the right place. So this poor van followed me everywhere. So we jumped out and again tried running. And as we got out running, it was about maybe, I can't tell you the distance, but there was an enemy that got out of a foxhole, and I saw 3 flashes. And as he shot, I just stood there. I just froze, believe me. And around this, it just skinned my knee, The second time, and I actually just stood there, and he pushed me over, and he shot the enemy. From then, but there's no talking. It's just, so we got up and carried on running. And there, I'll never forget, also there was like an anthill. We jumped under this anthill, trying to protection, because that's all you want, is just to hide. You're so scared, and you're holding that R1. And he said to me, Van, Caforio, today we're going to die. I said, Van, we're not dying yet today. I said, God, we have to get, I'm crying, both of us are crying. And I'm not ashamed to say that. There was just fear. And we're lying there, and they're starting to hitting us with 14,5s. I don't know from which angle. So now as we're getting shot, the trees are chopping the branches and falling us. And I still remember there were ants going down my back, eating me. And as I say, same time, I still said to Van, look, I don't know how many rounds you've got, but don't just shoot, spaarvuur. You might look up behind you, I'll check in front. Only if we're really in danger, then you shoot. Because I could see the enemy running. You can see that. It's frightening. And as I say, time went, and in the distance, I could hear rattles. And I don't know who it was. And it was platoon 3. So I said to Van, come. He says, no, Van. He says, come, Van, if we stay here, we're really going to die, So we got up and we started running. And it must have been maybe the length of 2 rugby fields, that's sort of the distance. They were riding in staggered formation. And as we were running, I remember the one rattle stopped and turned the turret. So I think it was trying to see, I think they saw that we were getting hit. And at the same time we're running, the 14,5 opened up on us. And the shrapnel hit the ground and hit me on my ankle. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 shrapnel holes on my lower legs. And it hit Van in the back, the shrapnel. So as we're running, he went and we fell. And then he said, Caforio, let me getref, sorry. He made getref. And I said, I don't want to look back. I thought, yes. And thank God it was just shrapnel that I think it hit him in his back. So I'm lying there, and the next thing, his name's Kelvin Luke. And I think if it wasn't for that guy, we wouldn't be here. Now he actually stopped the one rattle. They weren't supposed to stop. And his name's George Vermaak, the gunner of that the 20mm gun of that rattle, took out up at that position that was hitting us, 14,5 position. So I don't remember that. He says he picked me up. I don't remember. I think I just overwhelmed. My mind just went. I remember he said to me, get in the rattle. I wouldn't get in the rattle. And I think eventually pushed me in. I don't remember that part, but he told me that. So, and then there was a little chair. I don't know if you've been in a rattle. Got like a little chair on I think we were, what side was it? The right side. So I sat inside there, and obviously now I'm bleeding everywhere and there's pain. That's the third time, the shrapnel. So I'm sitting there, and at the same time, the door closed, but the rattle didn't move. It started carrying on with this position that was hitting us, and eventually shot it because the guy started swearing and carrying on. Get them. So now I'm thinking to myself, I must see how many rounds I got in this rifle. Yeah. So it kept on worrying me in my mind. So I pulled that, and I said 2 rounds, and I went like, so I had 3. And as I did that, before that, I think before he actually got that Stalin, that 14,5 hit our rattle, shot through the door. 2 shots came through the door. Yeah, it's genuine. Through the door, hit me in the face, in my head, my eye. I still got shrapnel here, my whole face, and this hand too was. I remember I could not move. It was burnt from the heat. This actually froze, and I thought, this is it. I started screaming, I don't want to die. The blood was pumping out of my head, spraying on the guys. It was really horrific. I don't know how we did it at that young age, genuine. In any case, we're sitting there, and then the guys, there was a medic, ops medic. So I was again very lucky. He said to me, "Eet jullie goed." Now he gave me 3 pills, which it was something I'll never forget. The blood was going in my hands, and I was eating this with these pills, eating this, and it still wasn't doing nothing because the blood is everywhere. Now I'm burning everywhere. My body's finished. So they gave me that sassigot, that morphine. They patched me up, and then from there, as I think I started dozing off. You're going to like a sort of how do you explain it? Sort of semi-sleep. you know, maybe because of the morphine. And then from there, they moved us into a medic rottle. I remember getting inside there, and I remember going inside there and seeing our driver of my LT's rottle. His name was HP Ferreira. He was shot with 14,5s through stomach, which he was lying there, and they said to me, "Go for it." And I remember I said, HP, and then he passed out, which apparently did die, and they revived him. I don't know. This is what I hear, and thank God for that. And I remember getting in this medic rot, and it was taking us to the Caforio position. But this is all through time. It was hell. And all of a sudden, there was bombing. And what had happened? Our own guys did 0-0 bombing, because the enemy, there was how can you explain it? The enemy was intense enemy, and no one could really get into our position to help us. So I had to bomb the place to make sure, and everyone was in rottles. So, and I remember the rounds hitting the ground and the shrapnel hitting a rottle, and I was still lying there, and I thought to myself, you know what? If they hit me now and I die, well, let it be. This is the way it's going to go. You know, you just after all these injuries, this is it. And I remember from there, they took me to the Caforio Park place, and I just sat there by a tree, and there was a dominee running around with his pistol. And he said, "My senior is reg." I said, "Nee, Dominee, is reg, is reg." And then from there, I went to I think it was the third Caforio Puma that landed. I said to the medics, I think you'll see that one picture that I've got, but that's not me. That's Fenter. That's another guy that they took. And they put me on the chopper, because the chopper cannot stay because of the fire. So it has to stay for a few seconds, and then let's go. So I remember hanging, and I said, "No, these guys are not letting me. I'm staying here. There's no ways I'm just." So they pushed me in. I remember eventually I got Caforio, and the sun was already going down at the stage of the time. I don't know the time. And I remember going up and just seeing smoke. And I thought, yes, what the hell just happened? I said to myself. And obviously, I think my body was in shock. I started vomiting and crying, and it was bad, thinking, yes, what happened? Lost so many guys. You know, we lost 13 in our platoon and 23 injured. I remember even sitting, just going back to when we hit, I forgot there. I remember sitting when we were outside the rottle. I remember his name was Frank Lela, and he got hit too, which eventually died. And I remember him screaming for his mother. I heard him saying, "Oh, help me, I think I'm dying." You know, so it was bad. It was really bad. You know, and then from there I went to Oshakati. No, there was a camp, I think about 10 Ks or 20 Ks out of the actual operational place, which I think the guys that maybe couldn't make it to Oshakati, which operated there. But with me, they gave me a clipboard, and they said, "Where's the pain? Where's the pain?" So they said they could see. So got like a clipboard with a body. And then they said, because I got 10 holes in me of shrapnel wounds, you know. And from there, as I say, I went to Oshakati. It must have been that night. And I remember in the X-ray room again, getting sick and still thinking, what happened? Can't believe. And then that night I looked up in the actual theater itself, and I saw the clock was 11 o'clock that night, Tuesday night. We were eating on a Tuesday. And he was a Yankee doctor. He wasn't even South African. He had a red beard, and he still said, "My son, we're going to fix you. Don't worry. You're lucky to be alive." Obviously, because of my head injury, you know? And he said to me, and I remember, obviously, they put me out, and I woke up that morning at Oshakati, and I remember seeing by the water tower, and I remember seeing the sun come up, and again thinking, yes, what happened? What happened? And that was it. That was the story. It was a hell of a day. It was a hell of a day, Chris. It was bad. It was a bad day. It was a real bad day. And like I say, I'm no hero. Just to end that part off. And my heroes are my 13 friends that died. They are the heroes. And as long as I'm alive, I always talk about them, especially Robert, who's very close to me. They are the heroes. I'm no hero. I'm just a survivor. And thank God I made it to enjoy life. And then, as I say, I clawed out, and they exempted me because I'm G4K6. And I think in 81, I started getting, going crazy, screaming under my bed. And then my dad took me again to Pretoria and sorted me out. This is not right. I gave him my son. He was right. Now get him back a scrap. And, and from then, but they were good. I must say the army in that way was really, really good. They did look after me in hospital. So I get a military pension, and life goes on. And also, I think what also keeps me going is my cop doctor used to say, which is, Commandant Leroux was her name. She always used to say to me, "No, Caforio, you must do something what keeps you going. It keeps you so you don't get so." That's why I started skydiving. So I've been jumping now for 30 years. I've got 1,350 free falls. So I think that keeps me going. And also got a beautiful wife, beautiful family. And I think also the other thing I must say what also helped me was joining the moths at Parkhurst, because I became very reserved. Because after the army, we used to have brides, and then guys that don't know about army and war and all that stuff said, "No, Marco, tell them your story, because you're young, you're stupid, you don't know any better. You drink and you start saying." And then I'll never forget the one guy, was strange enough, one of my friends said, "Oh, here we go with Marco's war movie watched again." Like I turned around, I'll never forget. I said, "You know what, my man, I won't mention names." I said, "You don't know nothing, man. You really," and I actually still clucked him, I remember that. You can't. So from that time, I actually kept, from 81, you can say, okay, Clara, in 8, I kept everything inside. I didn't want to talk about it because people won't believe. They got that look when they look at you like this and they think, this couldn't have happened. You can feel, what they're saying. It's not a, so I left it. And then in 2007, somebody mentioned about the Parker shell and I joined. And that's where I met Kenny. He was my old bull at the time, Kenny Schwartz, hell of a man. But all the guys helped me out there, I must say. And I think from there, healing, because I spoke to the right people, which could understand. And then also, I belong to 6-1 Vets, which also great with like Roland de Vries, Jaap Steyn. So it's all, we've got a good bunch of veterans. 6-1 are great people. And every year we have our functions at the War Museum, our annual meeting, veterans, 6-1 veterans. Okay, we couldn't the last 2 years because of COVID, as you know. But I must say, as through time and you talk about it and you actually start living with it and you feel better. You never forget. That's one thing. You'll never, ever forget. But I think you learn when in time you do learn to heal. You must also be strong. You mustn't go the wrong way, meaning drinking's not going to solve it. Drinking or thinking of other stupid things, and just you have to be strong. That's the whole thing about it. And I think the final thing of it is time does heal. Time heals you. And that's my story, Chris. Yeah. That's it.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for having the guts to tell us this story.
Yes.
I spoke this week with a nurse at 32 Battalion, Jennifer Barron. She's now, but she used to be a Holloway. And she said, and we came to an agreement that politicians start a war that they don't fight. And they don't understand war. And if people understand war, they will not be that easy to be convinced, to go and fight.
Yeah.
And perhaps we should just explain to people here that the Rattle is really not a tank.
No.
Though it's a big, heavy vehicle, I think it's 18 tons. It
Yes,
can be
100%.
shot out. It can be shot out quite easily if it doesn't move quick enough. And that's what happened to you. You people drove into an ambush, basically. You tried to take on anti-aircraft, and those shells are this big. I mean, and they were
23 mil. Yeah, ZU.
Yeah, the ZSU. So the 23
and I mean, it's a Rattle is an infantry Rattle. It takes infantry to the Dulwit. Once you're there, you get out. But it's to take you quick into the position. That's what a Rattle's about. No, I agree with you. And it took many years, as I say, to if I saw a Rattle, I think it was maybe 3 years ago. Or 4 years back, there was in Bloem, in Potchefstroom, the artillery. They had an exhibition, and there was a Rattle there. And strange enough, Kenny was there that day. And another buddy of mine, Derek Wood. And they said to me, go in this Rattle. And I couldn't go in, but eventually I actually broke myself and got into that smell of that steel. And it was just brought back everything, But it was meant to happen. It's one of those things. There's nothing you can do, it's life.
A light green color inside, if I remember.
Sorry?
It's like a light green color.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
I can imagine that because you can hear a Rattle coming as well. I mean, that engine roars. You hear
it's got,
I just want to say that Kenny, when you're talking about He's up tomorrow. In other words, about last week when you people see it, talking about Op Super with Neil Ellis and Pete Neethling. And that's how we got to you. And I thank you, Kenny.
No, thank you.
Grateful
Thank you
to
for
you
having
as
me.
well.
Thank you for having me.
I have a lot of questions to you, if you don't mind.
No, ask me.
I know you lost your left eye. What we're seeing
Yes.
right now is not actually your original eye. It's
no, it's just
glass or something. Yeah. Now, when did you realize, and you don't need to answer me if you don't want to, but when did you realize your eye is not working?
Now I'll tell you, it's when it got hit. I've got shrapnel here. I mean, I've got pieces of steel. Now it went into my eye, and I didn't lose it that specific day, but there was blood. It's like having, you can see your eyes injured. It's like a smoke grenade. You can see this red. So what had happened? The piece of steel had gone through my retina at the back of the eye. And I was losing fluid, but now the army, when I even went to 1 mil, they didn't really pick that up, I think. You know, they could see it, and I kept on saying, look, the eye's not right. You know, and what happens with the eye, if the retina starts to detach from the back, then you lose the vision. The eye is a muscle. And once it dies, it becomes like a raisin. It starts to just collapse. And you know, it dies. But I didn't, as I said, the eye was maybe removed, I think, 3 years after. You know, then they said to me, like survey doctors, you know, they said to me, look, you can't, they try to put gas in it and oil to see if they could push maybe the retina back so it could heal at the back of the eye. But it didn't help. The eye was finished. So eventually I've got a coral implant. It's a new thing that they came out with. So it's like a cover. They put like a coral board inside the back of your muscle, and then they stitch it, and then they put a lens. This is just like a lens that fits in. And then, okay, you can't see, but it's better, you know. You have to live with it. You know, I still make jokes out of it. If we have a few drinks, I put it in the whiskey and joke with the guys. Kenny will tell you about that too. Yeah, and that's what it was about.
Well, I'm glad for your sense of humor. I'm sure that helped you.
You know what, Chris, I know it's not good to say eyes. I wouldn't mind having both my eyes, but you know what? I'd rather have this gone than an arm or a leg. You know what? At least I can do things. I mean, I play in a band. I can skydive. I can. So you know, the Almighty above, He looked after me that day, and I thank Him for that. Really, it's.
Let's talk about your rock band.
Yes.
It's called Paradox Classics.
Yes, 100%.
And then you like the lead guitarist? How do you say?
No, I'm the rhythm player. I'm the rhythm, and I play a bit of lead. It's myself. It's Dino Potgieter, and our drummer is a Jew. His name is Johnny Maletsky. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a nice guy, hell of a lekker guy. And there's Arthur on bass, and it's 4 of us. So we only play classic 70s rock. It's old music: Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Bad Company, Black Sabbath, all that. We play all that classic rock, Eagles. And that's what we try and say. If we go to pubs or whoever hires us, they know that's what we do. Classic 70s rock band. And that's it.
How did that came along? I mean, did you just stumble across it, or did you always play the guitar?
Yeah, I actually taught myself. I was about 16 years old. I got a guitar at home and made noise. And started, and in that time, there wasn't like a YouTube that you could see chords and watch songs. So I used to get chords and then get books and sing. And then in time, I think it was after the army, was myself, my brother, we formed a little garage band, 4 of us in Orange Grove. Started playing, but the other guys didn't really take it as serious as me, I think it was. And then when my wife used to work, many years back, her boss used to play in a band. And he said to me, Marco, come, just try, maybe it'll fit in. So we formed a band, it was called Stonehenge. And from then, you know, we started to play, and then obviously you get better and better, and you get more intense into it. And then from then, Stonehenge broke up, and Johnny Maletsky at the time was the band leader of Stonehenge, of Paradox. And we joined there, and then we became, so we play like at all the kegs, grapes, venues. If people want us at weddings or wherever, bike rallies, you know, they have all these bikers have like a poppy run or whatever, then we go and jam for them, and we make some money, so it's good. And it's at the same time you're enjoying yourself and we're having fun. And it's good. But I taught myself, it's hard work, Ito, believe me. There's some days you want to just break it. But you have to, it's when you pick it up, you must play with your heart and enjoy what you're doing. And that's what it's about.
Well, you're a happily married man, so I can't actually ask you, but I've heard that rock bands can be quite popular amongst the female.
Oh, yes. No, we have it, but it's up to you to not to get involved with other things. So you have to be strong, and if you play too, sometimes they look, and you must just have no eye contact. When you finish jamming, you pack up and you go home. There's no sitting and drinking, and that's it. But also, I've got at the same time a beautiful, brilliant wife. I mean, she's always supported me in my jamming, skydiving, but at the same time, I must respect her too. So if we play, as I said to you, we finish at 12 in the old days, or maybe now with the curfew's lifted. Then you pack up and you come home. There's no coming home at 4 in the morning. Then then she's got all the rights to say, hey, what are you doing? It's true. Even skydiving, I mean, I jump at Vonnegut in Pretoria. When you finish, come home. Don't sit there till 10 in the night. Then you're looking for trouble. Women are clever.
Well, they have to be clever to survive the men. Well, that's what they will tell us. But your wife, is she also Italian?
Yeah, my wife's adopted. She's half Portuguese and Italian, half. So I think she's got that same way, half hard worker, everything. Good wife. This year, this month now, on the 28th, we married 29 years. So it's good. Still going. And also going back to the army. If I want to talk about army, and she doesn't moan, she listens. If I want to say something that maybe comes up, watch a war movie, and I'll tell her, never says anything. She agrees with me and she understands. Always supported me. In that way, I must say. So I think also that helps, going back to that stuff of COP 2 and all that, the doctors. If you've got support from home too, that helps a lot. So it doesn't cause you to maybe go off the road and start drinking or doing this or doing that. So because you can get supported at home, and that's great. So. But I think also besides all that, it's also up to yourself, your inner. You must be strong. You must have it's not good what happened, but it happened, so you must live with it. Get over it and carry on. As you say, even you said you picked it up with my eye maker. You have to. What must I cry about it? It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. People tell me what happened. I say, oh, you want to see? And I'll pull my eye. No, don't see. That's it. Rather be happy. It's no use crying, and that's how it went. I'm alive. That's the top thing. I'm alive to tell the story, and that's how it is.
Can you tell me, Marco, about the T-shirt which you're wearing?
Yes.
Right now,
okay. It's an anniversary. It's if I can come closer, it's a 40 years. I know it's a 40 years anniversary of Smoke Shell Skeptic, and that's obviously the Rattle and the 6-1 Messi. You get that for combat. So, but I've also got on my arm here. I've also got a tattoo here, Bravo Company, and the 6-1, and the Rattle. It's just things. Look, I know some people don't like tattoos and that, but for me, I do it for something that I did. It's my personal thing. I don't go around. If people say, if people know what it is, they'll ask me. They'll say, hey, you were at 6-1. That's not to be anything else. It just means something to me, So, and that's it. That's why I do it.
I often get letters here, and thank you for that, from children, as I call them. Well, they're in their 20s, but for me now, looking, what I mean. And they say to me something like, we've left South Africa with our parents 20 years ago. Most of them don't speak Afrikaans that well, so that's why we're always grateful when we can do it in English. They ask for that anyway. But they might not know really what 6-1 Mech is. I wonder if you can just tell us 6-1 Mech, because that is a famous armor unit.
Yes.
In the South African Army.
Yeah, 6-1 Mech is a great unit. Definitely is. Now, I think in 1979, we were actually, from what I gathered, the first infantry that actually were mobile, because there was Juliet before us. And I think we started the proper, I think so, maybe I'm wrong, but the first infantry with the rattles. So what Mech 61 Mech is, it's a rattle, but it takes infantry to the position, as I said to you, and jumps out. But Mech also, it's not just rattles, it's also got artillery, the tanks. So it's like a combined unit, big unit with all different groups, you know, that they joined. That's what 61 is. But I was with the rattle version, the rattle part of the infantry, Bravo company. That was all the Bravo guys that, I mean, all the people that went each year. If you were like with rattles and infantry, you go to the Bravo company, which was the Mech 61 Mech infantry unit. But as I said, 61 it had artillery, it was also Panzer, Nordicos. It had everything. So, but I mean, all the opses, if you see, you know for yourself, 61 was involved in all opses. Always front first to go in also. Always, and it was a great fighting unit. I think it will be. Tough guys, brilliant leaders we had. I must say, definitely, really good. I enjoyed going.
That's very true, because what you people did is still studied today at the war colleges.
Yes.
Your former commander, General Roland de Vries, he's invited. He's always invited, and these books I actually read. It's prescribed, it's prescribed works for the young officers to learn from.
Yes.
And I recall at one stage when 61 Mech went bananas in Angola, in South Angola, when they just moved off and started attacking. That column was something like 53 kilometers long. And if you think they did that without air support, basically, just by camouflage, just by guts, actually, it's sheer guts. I mean, no other army in the world will even attempt it. They just went and did things which I don't think can be repeated.
No.
Especially...
Look, our one, I think our smoke shell was the start of Operation Skeptic, was I think the start of the real big operations. And we were the first, I think. And then from then it was Protea and I think Daisy. But from then all 61 was involved. And I think the other major battle was in the Battle of Quito, La Bomba, all those in 87, I think it was. And they carried on. So it's true, each unit, I mean, they still took out the 49th Brigade, I think it was. I can't remember, of the Cubans. And so look, 61's a great unit, genuine. It was, and also all the guys, even the vets, if you see them now, all brilliant people. You know, together, there's no heroes, or everybody's just down to earth, gentle, all men, you know, and it's humble people, I must say. And it's so great, really. I'm proud to be a 61 vet. It's very, very nice. As I said, they help me. Yeah.
That's also the sign there behind you, the wood carving. That is the 61.
Oh, yes, that's one of my friends gave it to my birthday, 60th. When I turned 60th, I'm just proud.
May I ask, Marco, how did your parents take this? Because, you know, it's easy for us when we're young, you know, you're invincible. You don't actually understand why your parents can be worried. And now looking back that we're older and we have children that age, we think, oh, I don't want my son to be there, which is very unfair. It's a silly way of thinking. But how did your parents react to you coming back?
Well, that was another part. Now, I'll tell you, when we were hit, obviously, my parents had swapped houses. So they didn't really know. I think I don't know if it's the MPs or whoever goes to tell the parents, but they couldn't find where it moved. So it's not the army's fault that was where it moved, you know. And being in the ops, there was no more communication, so you couldn't write anything. But I'll tell you what happened is we were the Tuesday, and my father went and fetched my brother from Valhalla. He was in Pretoria the Thursday, and it says in the 4 o'clock news writing, the following people that died on the operational area came up, and it said De Vito, Madden, Frank Lela, Late, all the guys. And then my brother said, Dad, those are Marco's friends. Those are Marco's friends. Those are Marco's. So my dad actually stopped, and he got a fright, and he pulled over, and he says, are you sure? He says, yeah. So really, my dad didn't really take it at heart. He said, but when you go home, don't say nothing to your mother, he told my brother. And I remember that Friday night, the news came up, because I was at 1 mil foot tracker work. The news came up, and you remember Michael de Morgan, he read the names, and the following people came up. And strange enough, that night my mom watched and saw the names herself, and she started, and being Italian, they get very emotional. Now and I was still, under sedation and drugged and everything. But I remember that Saturday morning, there was a Germany from the Navy. I'll never forget. Whitebeard. He actually came up to me and said to me, "Look, son, do you know of any number of any contact that we can hold of your parents, because they don't know. They don't know about what's happened to you, you know." And strange enough, I'd remembered a number that, I don't know how in my mind, the phone number that my dad used to help Sardi's nightclub. I don't know if you remember that in Joburg also. Used to help manage it too, just to help the managers. And I remember that number, and then they obviously phoned him. And I remember maybe 3 hours later, they wheeled my whole bed in the military hospital to the walk-in front. I was in Ward 7. And they said, "No, your father wants to speak to you. He wants to really speak to you." And I remember I couldn't even hold the phone. You know, I was full of drips. And then I said, "Hello, hello." And he said, "Son, is that you, my boy? Is that you?" And my dad just cracked. I could hear my mom screaming in the background, and there was no answer. So eventually they wheeled me back. And I think 2 hours of my whole family arrived. You know, Italians like mafia. I know, I laugh now, but and they came there and they said, "What have they done to you, my son? What have they?" They went mal. And then he goes, "No, I've lost." I said, "No, everything's still here," because obviously I was bandaged. No, but they took it hard. My parents, I think it changed them. And which, going back to Vita's, I still keep in contact with the family. And although the father passed away, I think 20 years back of cancer. But the mother, I spoke to Christmas Day, Mrs. De Vita. She took it hard. That's a tough lady. I mean, when that son of hers went, you know, it was bad. And I'll tell you that story too. Is when I was injured, they phoned my parents. You know, being Italian, I said, "Look, Marco, can we see him in any way? We want to know really what happened." So I got passed from one military hospital, I think, when I could still basically walk. And then they took me to Boksburg, because he lived there. And I went to Mrs. De Vita and Mr. De Vita's house, and they said no, because he was the only son. Also the only son. And then the father went on his knees and he was crying. He said, "Bravo, Marco, bravo, Marco." Yeah. That was a sad day. And that whole lounge, I'll never forget, was full of roses with Robert's picture. He had a big picture, you know, which I couldn't see it just till today. But as time, you know, you live with it. And then I said, "No, you must tell me the truth. I want to know how my son died." And I couldn't. But eventually I had to tell him, you know, and it destroyed that whole family. You know, I think he spoke to me twice after that, although I used to go and visit, and he never asked me about army again. But he changed. Mr. De Vita was never the same man after that. He just, I think it died. I think that was the cause of it too. I think his son killed him in his heart, you know, that he eventually passed away. Yeah, he died. But that was, it's very sad. But what can we do? I still keep in, as I said, when I shook Robert's hand, I still kept my word. For 41 years, I still see I don't really see him much. He's 80 now. And also because of COVID, I think the young sister of Robert's got cancer. It's not doing well also, you know. But I speak to her and she calls me her son now. She tells people, "No, Marco's my son now." So very sad. But I always tell her, "You need anything, please phone me." Or, you know, yeah, you have to do it. Yeah, you have to do it, Squish.
Yeah, it's hard. I sometimes wish these damn politicians will want to listen to what we have to say to them.
Yeah.
It's not a movie.
No, it's not.
Really not a movie. It's got nothing to do with a movie. This is for real. But I know at the War Museum, or what do you call it? Is it in Parktown, the one in Johannesburg?
Yes, by the Saxon World. Yeah.
Saxon World. There's a fantastic place there. I visited it with an American friend. And I would invite anybody who's listening here, if you can ever get to that place, just go. Because you will find really a lot of things there. But I do believe, and you've given me the pictures as well, that there's like a monument.
It's called the Spear, the 6-1 Spear.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's got all the names of right round of all the officers that 6-1 did and all the fallen. The people the photo I've shown you is the skeptic. Now all those guys there, there's 13 all in my platoon. All those guys that died. So we had number platoon 1. After that, there was no platoon 1. When we cleared out at one side, there was just a gap. We were dealt in with platoon 2 and 3, but there was no platoon 1 was gone. It didn't exist. Yeah. Very sad.
They never recreated it. Now that's an army tradition too. I understand that when the British Special Air Service in the UK goes on parade, there's a gap for C Squadron, which I believe was for Rhodesians, which of course don't exist anymore. And so they left a gap. It's an army thing. I don't think many people will understand. But you do say to me, at least, Marco, the army did take care of you afterwards. There were no just leaving you on the street or something like that.
No. Look, you know, when we cleared out, I mean, they knew I was classified. You know, I was G4K6, and then I cleared out. But I think what got my parents is because I'd wake up under the bed screaming, and you know, as being a parent, maybe I was young. They take it different. And they said, they have to sort the son of mine out. He's not right. You know, he said, I gave him my son. He was 100% right. I get him back. He's a scrap. My dad used to say, you know, and it's not right. Not that but the army did. I must tell you, they look after me. And it's also up to the individual. You can't sit back and if you've got a problem and you must talk about it, go to the army or wherever, you know, and sort it out. You know, you have to do that. I mean, as I say, I get military pension. You know, they gave me a lump sum. You know, you get a danger pay. I mean, I must, and again, being treated, I can go to 1 mil if I want, you know, anytime, but I don't want to. You know, I don't want to. I'd rather go to my doctor. You know, but as I say, I can go. I've got an MPO number. You know, if I want it. No, yeah, and it's up to also if you've been injured or you've got problems and that, you must go to the army or get somewhere and the army will help. I'm sure they will help you. You know, I believe that. So,
can you tell me more about the shell holes, the moths?
Yes.
Because that's how we got to you, and I get the feeling here, and correct me if I'm wrong, that should be there anybody listening to us now, and he's getting nightmares, and he's not right, and you know in your head, you know there's something wrong. To join these people, to meet people like yourself who understands, who's not going to laugh at you.
No, yeah, if they're good, they should join, because as I say, you know, you go to a shell hole, it's people that have been through, okay, some maybe haven't had action experience, but it's all military that have had some or other thing with the army. But if you go there, it's people that understand you and they will heal you, they will help you. I mean, even the moths, even if you've got nothing, they help you, they'll give you money, they'll support you. I must say, they do functions I mean, they even give food to underprivileged people, you know, that have got, so it's good to join a moth. You know, it really helped me, I'll be honest with you. I mean, when I went there, it changed me. You know, you talk, and when, you know, as I say, you talk about the guy will look at you and listen to you, like Kenny, Derek, and guys that were all there. Mark, you know, Mark also is a 3-2 guy. You know, all got our show and they listen, and you can relate. There's a hug, there's maybe a tear, or you have a drink, or you know, and it does work. It does help. You go every month. You have a meeting with their functions. You join, and you talk and you laugh and you get it out. If something while you talk about it, then it's good. And I believe if people have got problems, you know, they should join a shalom, because from there it can lead to other things. They can, as I say, take you to doctors. You know, people got contacts for corp doctors. You know, that it's organization. Then they're good, genuinely, because really.
Yeah, I want to say this channel can help in any way.
Yes.
Anyway, the moths, or what do they call it? The Order of the Tin Hats.
Yes, yeah.
It's a First World War thing, actually, where it started.
100%.
This is a damn good cause, and it's a registered charity. If people feel like donating or helping or going or do something, you know, you're more than welcome there.
Yes, definitely. Really, definitely. And it's a good look. In each area, there's a shalom. Like in Edenvale area or East Rand, there's the Dickie Fritz. We've got Parkhurst. Okay, I think the other one, Warriors. There's another one in Muldersdrift, Warriors, Shellhole. So it's good. You go there and it does help, really. And as I said to you again, they'll help you in any other way. If you're down with money, it's not about being you feel embarrassed to ask. It's not about that. Everyone's a brother. You know, the shell hole also, there's no, if you're a general or if you're a captain, it's not about that. We're all moths. Then we're all in the same level. There's no, you don't say general, it's brother moth. That's what it's about. And we're all the same. And everyone helps each other. And it generally does work. Definitely helps.
Yeah. If you look back now, would you say it was worth it?
Yes, I don't regret the army. I'll be dead honest with you, because it does make you a man. It does. I don't regret it, even if it really, it changes you. Although now, look, we got messed around and you got named, but at the end of the day, it's about making you tough. That's what it's about. When they swear, the corporals, they run and this and put it. It's about making you tough at the end of the day. Because when it comes to the crunch that you have combat, although even if it's a little percentage of it in your mind, the training is there. It is there. It gives you that fast bait to carry on. If you can't go to army and be like a softie, it's not going to work. So, and even now there's guys that, they don't like the rank, but it's over now also that. They had to do it. That was their job. They break you down and rebuild you to be a soldier. So, and that's what I believe. And that's why I say I've got nothing against the army, and I'm glad I did it. It really, the only thing maybe was the ops, but unfortunately it happened. It's one of those things. In all wars, you get the survivor, the injured, and the guy that dies. And that's from years back of combat. So it happened in all wars. So it's just one of those things. We all have to live with it and be strong. And that's it. But I do not regret going to the army. Believe me. It was my 2 years, as I said, do camps because I was injured, but I cucked, for 2 years. But it was, what? It was lekker. Really, it was lekker. No regrets. Just maybe, like I said, the ops, but it happens. That's one of those things. You go to the army to be a soldier. I wanted to go to the army to be a soldier, not to sit in a store. Or that's me. How I was. I don't want to go. No, I want to go closer to home. I want to try this. I wanted to, because you go to the army. My personal view, to be a soldier. That's what it's about, and defend your country. That's what I believe.
I think that people will want to know what happened further after you got evacuated. That was the black day of 6-1 Mech. You've never suffered such losses before or since, ever, as far as I know. So we did succeed afterwards. Just for the people listening here, the battle didn't end when you got out, when you were evacuated by helicopter. The rest of the Rattles went forward and they recovered the shot out Rattles and they overran that terrorist.
100%. They carried on after in any combat operation, from what I think, I'm not a officer or nothing, but in any first wave, you're going to get casualties. That's what I believe. So from then, obviously, the guys that get injured or they get casevac and taken away, but the war does not stop there, or the battle. You have to carry on. So obviously the platoon 3, then it was Panzer Oaks and the Bats and 3-1 and 3-2, and then everyone was involved. It wasn't just us. It was 13 Ks by 8 by 13. It was a big base. It was bunkers. And so I don't know, I can't quote on it, but I think it lasted about 3 weeks or so. It was long, or a month. That's how long it carried. But eventually they took it. They took the place. But that was the other guys fought hard, and even the guys that stayed in those Rattles at night, from like platoon 2 and 3, the stories I've heard from the guys there, they had a hard time. They had a hard time. They were getting shot at in the night, and no one sleeps, and they're trying to shoot the Rattles, the RPGs, and they must try and move in the night, and it was hell from what I've heard. So I always tell the guys that tell me, like Kelvin, platoon 3, the guy that helped me, I say, thank God I wasn't there. I don't know who would have handled it. And I respect those guys, really, because they had a hard time. After that, they carried on. I was already in 1 mil, and even after I stayed in hospital 3.5 months, and then I went back to one side, and we couldn't stay there. Couldn't go home or nothing. They were treated us like rovers. So we went back to, I think that at the time they were Dracona, our guys. And so they never had pass. That's what I was trying to say. They didn't come back. They stayed there from Smoke Shell. They just carried on. And I remember going back up there, and when they saw us, they hugged us and cried and kissed us. It was sad. But we never even then spoke about it. It's another thing I wanted to say. It's coming to my mind. You go then, they're just happy to see you, but no one spoke about it. They just said, I'm sorry about Robert, and remember Andrew Madden and our guys, because out of my Rattle, 7 guys got killed out of my guys. And then maybe because we were young and the guys didn't want to talk about it. But then only after the army, then as time goes, people want to talk. That I never understood. That I never knew. Only now, like, it has to unfortunately take 40 years or 30 years, and then people, we start opening up. It's maybe because we were younger. I don't know. That was another thing that always used to get me, because they didn't ask. They know what happened to you, maybe, and then they just left it. I'm sorry, and then we clawed out, and that was it for me. My army was over. Was finished. So.
Well, we have a psychologist on this show as well, Frans van Staden, who was a 3-2 battalion company commander, and
Yes.
now a psychologist, and he obviously talks about whatever bothers veterans, and it's really a brilliant man. He says straight in his shows that if you need help, that you cannot afford to pay him, he will still help you.
Yeah.
He's discovered a unique method which is actually working very well, different from the normal, because a normal psychologist will ask you what happened, and then you relive it. It's
Yes,
not
yes.
good. In my eyes,
Yes.
that doesn't work. But he uses a completely different way of doing it.
Yes.
So I want to invite anybody here, if you feel like you need help, just go and look under, I think, Legacy Partners, under the playlist. You will find Frans van Staden, only soldiers there, and myself,
Yes.
ex-police. So we talk, and we talk, I think, really quite straightforward there. And you're welcome to come and join us
Okay, thanks.
anytime. So if I ever met somebody who's got the right to have flippant nightmares, it's you. So I really admire you for this.
No,
Even
thank
talking
you.
about it. I really do.
And I shared it, as Ken explained to me, this is a great program, this legacy, and it's about, as you say, soldiers, and it's good to get things out, and talk about, because going back to what we said, we had a proud army, so and I believe that, so and it's good. I'm happy I did it. Really, when Kenny asked me, I said no. I said, if you want, I said no, Kenny, I'll do it. Not a problem. I like to share mine because I also want to do it for my unit, for what 6-1, because we had a great unit, so.
I have to say that it's an astonishing story, and I'm
Thank
really
you.
grateful that you shared it with us.
And thank you
Marco,
for having me.
I admire you.
Thank
I must
you.
tell
No,
you that there's two
as I
ways
said,
you
I'm
can do this. One can be to sit in a corner and just hate the entire world. The other one is your way.
You must go forward. You have to go. That's why you must. You can't. You have to just go forward. That's what it is. No use shrinking and think. Must be strong. You have to be. You have to be tough. And it's life. But thank you once again for having me. And nice meeting.
Yes, we'll
Really.
keep in contact, because I really
Yes.
like your Internet organization there. I know a few people there. I'm sure we're going to talk in the future. If anyone is listening, I keep on saying this to you. You've got a story. You were not unimportant. Please come and tell us. Speak to me.
I'm going to speak to Kelvin, the guy because we become good friends, the guy that actually saved me. Just to tell you in short, quickly, when I was shot, he was sitting in front of me. He says, when I was hit, his eyes just went big. He couldn't move, and my blood sprayed all over his.
On the internet, I think you will agree that was the most fascinating story. And it's not the end, because we have somebody else which is going to speak now. Kelvin Luke. Now, Kelvin is the fellow who actually rescued or dragged Marco to the second rattle, and then that rattle is, got hit as well. And we got hold of Kelvin, and he graciously said he will tell his side of the story, so let us listen to what he has to say. We had some problems with the internet, so Kelvin gave us a voice clip, and I'll put some pictures of him on as well. I'm sure you will really enjoy it.
If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.
Hi, Chris. Yeah, so at the ripe old age of 17, I was conscripted into the SADF. The first year's training at one side was anything but fun. It was hard, and all I can say, it just was a very difficult year to get through. Anyway, so after the training, I think it was the 12th of December 1979, we all went off to Umatea, which is in Namibia, to a 6-1 Mech base, where we did a whole lot of farm patrols and brace protection and menial tasks in the base, and basically they kept you busy. Anyway, I don't know what month it was. It must have been April, May, something like that. We got taken away from the border. We got brought back to South Africa, our company, and we got sent off to the Rhodesian border, where we were for a couple of, 2 or 3 weeks, while Robert Mugabe was inaugurated as the president of the then Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. Anyway, so when that was over, we got called back. We went back to one side. We got a weekend pass. And we were told just before we went on pass that it was our first 7 days. We were told just before we went on pass that we had to listen for the word foxbat on the news every night while we were at home on the TV news, the 7 o'clock news. And if we heard the word foxbat, we were to come back to one side immediately. Anyway, so one night I get back from wherever I was on pass, and my dad says to me that they said the word foxbat on the TV, so on the news. So I told him I was talking rubbish. Anyway, so next minute I get a phone call from my lieutenant telling me that I have to get back to one side immediately. So they basically cut our 7 days pass short. So anyway, so off we went back to one side. Anyway, we got back to one side, and within a day or two, they'd flown us back to, on the Flossie, flown us back to Grootfontein, where we drove from Grootfontein to Umatea, and we went into some serious training there, in the training grounds behind Umatea. I think they were called Blow Barn and Roy Barn of Sweets. Anyway, after all this training, I think it was the 7th or the 8th of June, we were called into the Manasi. The whole base was called into the Manasi, and we were spoken to by Commandant Tipana, and we were told about Operation Skeptic. It was a cross-border. We were going to go and destroy a SWAPO base at a place called Chafufua, and he also asked us if there was anyone that didn't want to go with, and I think everyone basically went with. They gave us an option to opt out of going on this cross-border operation. Anyway, so then I think it was the 9th of June, it was the 9th of June, we landed up at Inana, where we had a chance to have a last freshen up and stock from the canteen, buy stuff from the canteen, get ready for this thing. And the next thing, we all get told to mount up. We all mounted up, and off we went, and we crossed the border on the night of the 9th of June. It was very anticlimactic. Nothing happened. You didn't even actually see where the border was. Maybe a thin line, a thin fence, 3-strand fence or something like that was demarcated the border. And that night it was very tense and nervous, and it was the first time now we're in big, ugly Angola. Anyway, so the next morning, they wake us up early, the 10th of June, and we start bundu bashing our way to this objective, which our objective was called Smoke Shell. and the whole operation was called Operation Skeptic. Anyway, so we bunderbashed our way there, and it was heavy going. The steps on the rattles were smashed off. The lights were smashed off. The mirrors were smashed off. The aerials were broken. It was tough. It was tough going. Engines caught fire from the leaves that went into the vents from the trees. It was quite a journey getting to this base. And I think we arrived there, just before we arrived there, we were all given a little yellow card, like a little motivational ticket for all of us. And I think most of us have still got that little yellow card. Anyway, so we, at about 1:30, our forward elements started hitting some contacts there, and I think it was platoon 1, and we were hearing these very loud, very fast automatic large caliber weapons being fired, and it was also very scary situation. Anyway, so the next thing, we're driving along, and there's a whole lot of trenches around us, and we start shooting into the trenches. Once we cleared the trenches, and we threw a few grenades, and that once we were over the trenches, we got stuck in this, like a little forest of very young trees, and there was a big battle going on in the front, and we were still in the trees there. Anyway, we broke through this little forest of trees, which took about 15 or 20 minutes, I don't know. And the first thing that I saw was a rattle burning. It's very hard to believe to see one of your own vehicles on fire, a thick black smoke pouring out of it, and some guys running around on the outside of it trying to put the fire out with fire extinguishers. And when we got to the rattle, we drove past it. It was properly on fire. There was a body hanging out of the roof hatch, one of the hatches on the roof, and his stalduck was red and he was burning, and it was not a pleasant sight. Anyway, and that's when I realized that this is not fun and games. This is for real. We could die here. Anyway, so we drive past this vehicle about 10 meters away from it, and we're driving on, and there's people shooting in the front, and bombs are landing and flipping. It's all chaos. And the next thing I see 2 guys running towards us, Caforio and Van der Pfeiffer. So I screamed at our driver to stop, which he did, and he opened the door, and I jumped out of I jumped out of the rattle, and I screamed at Caforio and Van der Pfeiffer to run. I don't know why I did that, but I did it. In any case, the next thing, Caforio, about 50, 60 meters away, Caforio goes down, and so I take off like a hero. I'm not a no hero. I go running towards him to fetch him, to pick him up and help him back to our rattle. And when I got him, I helped him up, and we started running back, and he couldn't run anymore. He told me, stop, he couldn't run anymore. I didn't know that he was hit in the ankle with shrapnel. Anyway, so I took his rifle and I put his arm over my shoulders, and I half dragged him and half ran like an idiot, as fast as I could, back to our rattle. It was a very harrowing, 40 seconds or 50 seconds or whatever it took me. It was a scary situation. And anyway, so I got him back to our rattle. We got in, and the door closed, and I went and sat in my chair. I was Bren number 2, so I sat in the middle seat on the right hand side of the rattle, and I took my position, and I looked out the little window in front of me, and the next thing I see 3 anti-aircraft rounds, 14,5 anti-aircraft rounds coming straight for us. You see them coming, you got no time to duck or anything like that. Anyway, the first round hit in front of Marco. Marco was sitting by the door. This little jump, fold down seat, fold out seat, I don't know what you call it. Was sitting on that seat, and the round hit in the door just, I don't know, 6 inches or so away from his face. And I myself instinctively ducked to the right when I saw the second round. It only takes like half a second for your brain to realize what's happening. That the second round was coming straight for me, and it hit on the welding where the vertical plate and the angle plate on the outside of the rattle join. Directly in front of me, it hit there. I ducked behind the base that was sitting to my right. Not in time though. Anyway, I lay there shaking, like I thought I was dead. I really thought I was dead. Anyway, eventually I got my senses back, and I sat up again. And I looked at Caforio, and he was screaming. He was full of blood. His face was full of blood. And I was completely wet as well, and I thought I'd been hit with, and I was busy dying because I just felt this wetness all over me. Meanwhile, the round had hit my water bottle, and I was splashed completely with water. Anyway, I also looked down, and there was a piece of shrapnel sticking out of my shirt pocket. This piece of shrapnel went into my chest and was sticking out of my shirt pocket. My shirt pocket caught fire. There were little flames licking up, and obviously I killed that as fast as I could. You get a serious fright when your uniform's burning. And I realized that I had a whole lot of holes in my arm. I've got 9 holes near my elbow, my upper arm and my elbow. And they were bleeding, and I looked at the guy sitting next to me. His name was Bloom, and he had blood streaming down his face because he also got hit with a shrapnel. And Caforio was screaming like a madman, telling us to help him. Didn't want to die. And our medic, his surname was Van Tonda, helped Marco out with some, well, I saw this with my own eyes. He gave him 2 tablets, and he swallowed them with his own blood. His mouth was full of blood. He was covered in blood. It was not a nice sight. Anyway, while all this was taking place, our gunner, his name is George Vermaak, our commander was screaming at him to shoot the guys that shot us. And he kept shouting at Agetela, and he swung the turret, and he shot with the 20mm and the 7.62 Browning, and he took those gunners off that seat. If George Vermaak wasn't our gunner, I don't think we'd be here today, because he was just did exactly what he needed to do. Something I forgot to say was just prior to all this, the Caforio story happening, he also took out a 23mm gun. We drove almost straight into a 23mm anti-aircraft gun emplacement, and George Vermaak took him out as well prior to this. Anyway, happening with it, we got shot. Anyway, so then we got hit 3 times, and the third round went through the tow bar, and it went through the side of the rattle and went through the bottom of the diesel tank, so that all the diesel that was in the tank was now sloshing around our feet. It was really an horrendous experience. It was like sitting inside a diesel tank. It was that you could hardly breathe, and it was not a nice experience. Then let me just think. Then we took Marco to the medics. And another guy that was sitting behind me, his name was Olafir. He got one of the rounds, from the 14.5 rounds, went through his upper left arm and into his chest, and he was also badly wounded. And our commander, whose name was Stumka, his surname was Stumka, he had his eye cut open, his eyeball cut open, and he also had to get medical attention. Okay, so then we dropped Caforio off at the medics and Olafir, and Stumka, and the next thing, our captain, surname was Aramsa, Captain Louis Aramsa, told our mortars to shoot on our position, to fire on our position, which they did. And I've just got to tell you something, that I was in quite a few bombardments after Smoke Shop, but that bombardment had to be the worst bombardment of the lot. It was a full blast HE display from the 81 mortars from one side. Yes, it was. I thought I was going to go insane. I've never had such a bad headache in my life. Obviously with the smell of the diesel inside this rattle, and it was just horrendous. Anyway, so when that mortar thing ended, we carried on moving around again, having little fights here and there, and the next thing we ran out of diesel, so our rattle came to a standstill. So me and the medic, Van Tonda, were ordered by Stumka to get out the rattle and put the tow bar on to the rattle that was reversing towards us to come and take us in tow. So Van Tonda took his side of the rattle, his side of the tow bar, and he hooked it onto the rattle that was reversing towards us, and he ran and jumped back into the rattle, into our rattle. And then I had the other end that I had to attach to the front of our rattle. And while I was doing this, someone was shooting at me, and I saw flashes on the glacier plate in the front, and all the rounds going through the grass here to my left. And I screamed and I shouted to the driver to tell someone that I'm being shot at, because it was still, the place was hot. There was lead flying all over the show. Then eventually got it hooked up and got back into the rattle. I got back into the rattle. I really thought it was gonna be my last day that day. Anyway, so then after that, we ended up fighting our way through the objective. I think the last rounds were like it was fired at like 9:30 that night, and we were ordered to regroup and to get back into Lini and to go back to a lager, which we didn't know where it was. We were going to pull a lager, rondom verdediging thing. Anyway, so on our way there, we weren't driving very fast. The game was probably 10 km an hour, and we drove into an ambush. They ambushed us. It turned out to be one mother of a firefight. I don't know, there's some of the rifles were hit with RPG-7s, but I don't know why they didn't explode, but I was told afterwards 2 reasons that they didn't explode. One was that they'd left the caps on, whatever that means, and the other one was they didn't have time to get enough speed, and they were too close to us. They really were. They fired away from like 10 meters away. They fired at us. Anyway, it was one hell of a battle ensued there. Everything that we had was firing back at them. I was shooting out the rifle port. It was one hell of a contact. It lasted about, people have got varying times on this, but I think it was about half an hour or so, at least. Anyway, eventually the firing died, came to an end, and we drove off. Only to come to our lager, and we pulled into our lager, and the Alpha company was parked in a long stripe, nose to tail, and then our artillery was in a long stripe, and then it was us, Bravo company, so it was 2 rows of rattles with our artillery in between the 2 rows of rattles. Anyway, it was flippin' freezing as well. Anyway, we sorted ourselves out. We made dug trenches and settled ourselves in for the night. It was about midnight, I would say, when all this took place. So getting settled in, start sleeping, get into the sleeping bag. I'm starting to sleep, and the next thing I hear some mortars being fired. TERS had horrible mortars. They had those 120 more mortars. So anyway, they fired at us and missed. Their bombs landed to the right of us, quite far away, about I don't know, 500 meters away. I don't know. Anyway, the next thing, there are thousands and hundreds of green AK rounds, traces flying over our heads. I don't know if they were doing an assault on us or they're just standing off and shooting at us from a distance. I don't know. But it also went on and on and on, and eventually the orders were being shouted to our artillery, whose barrels were pointing almost straight up. They were those 5.5 artillery guns, and our artillery started shooting back at these guys, and I think our mortars were also firing back, and the Rattles in the front row, the Alpha Company guys, were also firing back. And the next thing, there was just one hell of a big noise. I've never ever in my entire life heard such a loud noise. And it went on and on and on. Anyway, what had happened was one of the artillery guns, there's a round you put in, and then there's the ladings that you put in afterwards. Anyway, this one gun, in their darkness and in their haste, they never put the round in, but they put the ladings in and they pulled the trigger. It was the most horrendous sound. It really was. It's something I'll never forget. Anyway, that all cleared up, and people were still shooting, and I'd had enough. I just fell asleep. And I fell asleep in the middle of a contact, and I didn't care if I died or lived anymore. I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. Anyway, the next morning, we get woken up early, and they told us we're going back to the ambush site where we were ambushed the previous evening. And I believe we shot 80 Swapo terrorists dead there that night. I'm not sure of that figure, but I've heard the figure of 80. Anyway, so we're getting towed, we're in the column, we're getting towed, we're going back to this ambush site. And the column comes to a halt, we stop, and a Zero Rattle comes riding past us on the right-hand side. You know, the big commander dude, who knows who's in there, I don't know. Anyway, so they go driving past, slowly of course, and about 2 Rattles in front of us, they hit a landmine. Yes, it was one hell of a bang when it's so close to you, and you're not expecting it. And I saw 2 bodies go flying out the turret. They got ejected out the turret like champagne corks. And the one guy came down and landed on the front nose of the Rattle. He was the gunner, his name was Mike Bond. And the other guy got chucked right off onto the ground outside. And when the dust settled and cleared, I couldn't believe my eyes as to who this person was. It was General Constant Viljoen. He got blown right out the turret. Anyway, he was quite calm about it. He walked back to the Rattle, which was now listing badly and smoking a bit, and climbed onto the top, grabbed his rifle and jumped off again, and then went and climbed onto another Rattle, and that was in the column. That was the first time, actually, it was the first time I saw an R4 rifle, was when General Constant Viljoen had one. We still had R1s. Anyway, soon after that, we get told to leave the column, the Rattle that's towing us and us. We must go to the Tiffies. They've got a new tank for us. They're going to put a new diesel tank in for us. So off we go to the Tiffies. And they told us to leave the Rattle alone while they worked on it and replaced the tank. So we went walking around looking for water. We had no water. Water was a big scarcity as well. And we found this trailer. We all washed ourselves. Got some of the dirt off us. And I saw that I had 9 small holes in my arm. The shrapnel, a piece in my chest, a piece in my finger, and a piece in my thigh. So that night, they told us we could go back to our Rattle. They'd fixed the tank, and we got back to the Rattle. We took the drain plugs out and we cleaned all the diesel that was still in the rattle out. And in the blood that was everywhere, it was all over the show. We tried to clean most of it up. Then the next morning, we slept there. The next morning we went back to our company, Bravo company, and we just joined them. And then the next thing they were driving along, and the next thing we can hear now, there's a nice contact going on the right-hand side of us here. So we entered the fray as well. So we turned right into the bush there, and joined this contact. And we were told to debus, stop 8. And we did our walking between the rattles, and there was some shooting, quite a lot of shooting going on in the right, in the front. The bush is thick, so you can't really see exactly you can't see what's going on full stop actually. And there's lead flying around haphazardly from all over the show, from behind us. Some guys behind us were having a contact, and there was just lead flying all over the show. Anyway, we're walking along. And the next thing, there's a shot from about 2 feet in front of me from the ground. There was a swapper dude lying there. I did not see him. And the guy that was next to me, Bosch, also didn't see him. And he pulled one round off and he hit Nell, who was just to my right through the buttocks. Anyway, me and Bosch put an end to this dude, which was, well, that was that. And then after that, there was still some shooting and that, and then we were told to return to our rattles, and the shooting died down, and we got back into our rattles. And so it went on day after day until we attacked bases. By the time we got there, they'd scarpered, they'd run away. So I think for 21 days after the 10th of June, we attacked bases basically every day. 9 times out of 10, they were empty. There was no one there. So, and then on the 30th of June, we crossed back into Namibia, and to very welcome showers and refreshments and decent food and being a normal human being again.
So we came to the end of this particular video. I must say that I'm deeply touched by it. I think that there were heroism here, even if those involved refusing to say so. But I leave you to judge. And as always, I say to you, if you have a story to tell me, please come and talk to us. Let us not be ashamed of what happened in our past. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You had people like this, 18 years old, 17 years old, doing things which I really think deserve credit. So, until we meet again, God bless.